Analysis of the disappearance and death of Duncan MacPherson, a 14-year mystery buried in the Austrian ice. Hello, I'm 48 Hours True Crime. Today we'll be examining the mysterious case surrounding the death of Duncan MacPherson, a Canadian hockey player who vanished in Austria in 1989 and wasn't found until 14 years later. I'll begin with the background and timeline of events, followed by my personal analysis. Duncan Alvin MacPherson was born on February 3, 1966, in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada. From a young age, he had a deep passion for hockey. He played for the Saskatoon Blades in the Western Hockey League and was drafted by the New York Islanders in 1984. However, his professional career was hindered by a series of injuries, and by the spring of 1988 he was released from his contract, forcing him to rethink the direction of his life. Later, Duncan connected with Ron Dixon, the owner of a semi-pro hockey team in Dundee, Scotland, known as the Tigers. Ron had offered Duncan a position as a player coach. They were scheduled to meet in Scotland on Saturday, August 12, 1989, to finalize the contract, with Duncan expected to start on Monday the 14th. But Duncan left Canada earlier than planned, hoping to take a short trip through Europe and visit some friends. On August 4th, he arrived in Nuremberg, Germany, to visit a friend named George. On August 7th, he borrowed George's red Opel Corsa, a small, common European car, for a short road trip. He intended to return by August 11th. Duncan drove to Füssen, a town in southern Germany near the Austrian border, to visit another friend. From there, he continued on to the Austrian Glacier ski resort in Austria on August 9th. At the resort, a ski instructor named Walter reported that Duncan attended a snowboard lesson in the morning. He rented a snowboard and boots from a shop called Sport Shop 3000. Because he had been sweating heavily, he also purchased a fleece and left behind his turtleneck, sweater, and belt at Walter's office, intending to return for them later. He had lunch with Walter and continued snowboarding into the afternoon. Walter's girlfriend last saw Duncan around 2:30 p.m. using the drag lift on the Hypothermia Glacier. After that, he disappeared without a trace. On August 12th, Duncan failed to show up for his meeting in Scotland. After several days of silence, Ron Dixon contacted Duncan's parents. They flew to Europe on August 27th to search for their son and reported him missing to Austrian authorities. On September 22nd, police located Duncan's Opel Corsa in a parking lot near the Austrian Glacier cable car station, roughly 145 kilometers from Füssen. Inside the car were all of his personal belongings, including his passport, but no sign of Duncan himself. Investigators determined that Duncan had arrived at the resort on August 9th and intended to return the next day. Although records initially indicated he had returned his snowboard, the rental log was mysteriously missing. This led police to suspect that Duncan didn't disappear while snowboarding, but possibly while hiking or walking on the glacier. A 3-day search was conducted, but nothing was found. Then, on July 18, 2003, 14 years later, Duncan's body was discovered in a shallow crevasse on the glacier, just 25 meters from where he was last seen. First, police told the Canadian embassy that his body was found outside the resort's designated skiing area, a claim that was untrue and which Duncan's family felt unfairly placed blame on him for venturing into unsafe terrain. The condition of his body raised immediate questions. Both forearms and hands were missing. His left leg was severed above and below the knee. His snowboard was shredded, as if by a sharp industrial machine. His clothing was clearly torn apart. Despite these suspicious injuries, authorities declined to perform an autopsy and concluded that Duncan had died from hypothermia after falling into the crevasse, with the movement of the glacier over the years distorting his remains. But many, including Duncan's family, believe there's more to the story. One theory is that Duncan may have been struck by a snowcat, a powerful grooming machine used on ski slopes, especially by its rotating tiller at the rear. It's believed that on a foggy day, the driver may not have seen him. If he was unconscious or immobile, he may have been dragged and hidden in a crevasse to conceal the accident. This would explain why the snowboard was so badly mangled and why his injuries appeared sharp and mechanical, not consistent with a simple fall. There were also troubling oversights in the investigation. Duncan's car remained in the same spot for weeks without being flagged. His clothing, left in Walter's office, was never questioned. Though records said he returned the snowboard, it was found with his body. His wallet contained all personal documents except his driver's license, which is often held as a deposit for rental equipment. Near his body were gloves that didn't belong to him, suggesting someone else had been there, possibly the person who moved or concealed his remains. In my view, Duncan's death was linked to serious negligence, if not an outright cover-up. Whether he died from hypothermia or was struck by machinery, the resort staff's actions and inactions were reckless. After his remains were discovered, there was no renewed effort to uncover the truth. The lack of an autopsy and the rapid cremation closed off any chance of future investigation. And the overall disinterest from authorities suggested they weren't willing to pursue justice for a foreigner. It's possible that Duncan simply had an accident and froze to death. It's also possible he was killed by a snowcat. Whether he was alive or dead when the machine struck him remains unknown. But what is clear is that those responsible for his safety failed him, and afterward did little to make things right. The indifference, the delays, the misdirection, they leave behind not just unanswered questions, but a warning for travelers everywhere. In a foreign land, you might simply be a stranger. And sometimes, the truth is just left behind in the snow.